right, so I'm currently on the phone with Philly. He's another one of the musicians that reached out about the interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
My name's Philly Jacobs. You can call me Phil or Philly. Yeah, I'm a guitar player, bass player, songwriter, part-time singer, full-time dad, and you know, here to talk with you about all this.
Very cool. Excellent. Why don't you kind of give me some detail about, when you first encountered music? What about it kind of reached to you and made you want to pursue a life in it? What did you find compelling about it?
Sure, sure. Um, so apparently, I've always been into music. There's a picture my parents have of me where I'm in, yeah, literally an infant, and they got like a Walkman. I was born in 1983, so like Walkman instead of Walkman headphones, like on me, listening to that. Apparently, and my parents told me I'd always, was singing along the songs on the radio. Particular love for, I guess, 80s, rock and pop songs. Katrina and the Waves, "Walking on Sunshine" apparently was a real popular song I really enjoyed, stuff like that. And yeah, I've always kind of been into pop music like that. And, it wasn't, but you know how it goes. Like when you grow up, you're kind of basically just into whatever your parents are into. Uh, yeah, they, uh, like my parents were into like folk music. Like dad loves like Jim Croce and, Gordon Lightfoot and those kind of like singer songwriter guys. Um, Crosby, Stills and Nash, like another popular band that my parents both like. Um, that kind of stuff. And then it wasn't until, yeah, I'd say about sixth or seventh grade when I started kind of getting into, that would have been around like 1993, 94. So like, that's the heyday of Nirvana and the rise of grunge and all that, right? I have a distinct memory of, we, we went out for dinner at this pizza place. We were living in Northern California at the time. And, they had a jukebox there, and then I think Heart Shaped Box or something came on the jukebox, and like my parents were talking, oh, this song, oh, it's just the lyrics are terrible, and whatever they're talking about under the table, I'm like tapping my foot, I'm like, man, I really love this, right? Um, yeah, I guess that was probably around like my 11th or 12th birthday. I got a like a Discman, and my parents said, okay, you can buy two CDs to go with your Discman, right? So I got a copy of Nirvana's In Utero, and the other CD was the Mask motion picture soundtrack. You're a big Cuban Pete fan, right? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
so, but yeah. Anyway, I of course then that's kind of when I fell head over heels into like rock music and guitar music was because of Nirvana. Getting that In Utero album, kind of a weird album for I thought Nevermind's usually the way in for a lot of people, right? But for me, I don't know, just In Utero kind of hooked me. And then ever from there, me and my buddies started getting into, whatever was whatever was cool on 120 minutes, right? Like on MTV. I remember I got my friend Weezer's Blue album and the first Silverchair record, Frog Stomp, as like a gift for his birthday. But like somebody else had also gotten it for him, so he just had two copies of it. And we'd be like up in his bedroom, like playing video games, listening to Buddy Holly, and listening to Israel's Son, and
Mm-hmm.
just going like, wow, these are so amazing. Anyway, so probably the next year, I decided I wanted to learn how to play guitar. And in my middle school, they offered a guitar class, uh, aside like band and stuff like that. So I like basically begged my parents, please, 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 I want to play guitar. I really want to play guitar. They were like, oh man, I don't know, we're gonna find a guitar for this kid. But they had a friend who just had, some old classical Spanish guitar that they weren't using, and they let me borrow it. And yeah, just kind of took the plunge from there, right? So learned in school, when you learn like that, right? They teach you the finger style and stuff like that. But once you learn the basics and the notes and all that, right? But and then once you start learning chord forms, and then I learned power chords, and that was kind of the end of my formal training from there. Because then I could start playing, the songs I love, right?
Sure. So let's dive into that a little bit. Once you started learning guitar, what did you kind of feel was your next step there once you kind of figured out how to play it? Did you just kind of want to do like covers and learn other people's music, or did you want to start writing? What were kind of your next formative steps?
Yeah, I mean that was it, right? It was just learning how to play the songs off the radios that I loved and stuff like that. Like jamming. Like it wasn't until let's say probably ninth grade I finally got an electric guitar. Uh, everybody gets that. Maybe they get like the Strat pack from Squire whenever they got a
Mhm.
Christmas. No, I bought uh, it was an Epiphone White Flying V for my first guitar. Um, it was I couldn't even I don't even know like what the model was, but yeah, that was like everybody had a little crappy Strat or some like Ibanez, had a lot of Ibanez. The start of like the Geo series kind of type stuff, right? No, I got myself a Flying V. And that was my first guitar, and then then it was my buddy got one, so we go and we go to his house and jam, playing Metallica songs and stuff off the radio, and then it was about 10th grade. Um, that's like bands started forming like where I went to high school, right? It's this little town called Leesburg, Virginia, like outside of Washington D.C. That's where I grew up, basically. And yeah, I found out this friend of a friend they had a band, and they had just like kicked out their rhythm guitar player, I guess. I mean, it's high school kid drama, whatever, right? So
Mhm.
and they were kind of looking for another guy, and I really wanted the spot, right? So I like went up to him at school and was like, "Hey man, I heard you just kicked out your guitar player. I'd really like to try out." And they're like, "Man, I don't know, maybe." And then finally, I like pestered them, and they let me go and try for the band, and like, that was my first being in a rock band kind of thing. And they were interesting because they weren't just playing covers. They had a guy who was singing, and he was kind of writing songs, and he fancied himself a tortured artist type, right? So,
Mhm.
um, and so yeah, that's we started learning his songs, and then the rhythm section were these two brothers uh, who played bass and drums, right? And yeah, and like I knew them like around like the drummer guy, like we played like roller hockey together and stuff like that, right? And yeah, and then I guess like I was the complete idiot, and they let me in the band, and yeah, then we started learning songs, and
Sure.
I guess I passed the audition, right? And yeah, I remember my first gig ever. Um, they had this like a teen center kind of like place in this town, like a couple towns over, and they'd let bands play there, like on weekends, like Friday nights or whatever. And somehow the singer got us on, one of the bills as like one of the basic opening band. And so we go to the gig, and I'm like extremely nervous, like uh, just like not sure what to do. And the band who I think they were like adults, they must have been like guys in their 20s or something like that, like you know just looking, whatever, local band playing gigs, guys hanging out, having fun kind of thing, right? And they were extremely cool. They like let me use their rig and stuff like. They're like, "Hey man, listen, it's just like band practice, all right? You just got to get out there and do it." And they were very very cool, very supportive, right? And yeah, we played our first show. I'm pretty sure I was like standing staring at my feet the whole time, but um, when we played to like the sound guy and the other
Mhm.
bands, basically, right? But
Sure.
that was my first gig, and I kind of caught the bug after that, and just was like, this is great.
Excellent. So, let's jump ahead a little bit, and where did kind of all of that lead you? Where did you kind of end up? Where you are now in your journey of being a musician.
Sure, sure. Well, fast forward, I guess, right to now it's 2023. So, um, anyway, I'm new to the Twin Cities. Like I've just moved here this past summer, and I got a family and stuff like that, right? And so my wife has been sort of encouraging me to like go meet people and go like start to be more social, like get out of the house and stuff like that, right? So I did what I always do, which is where all right, well, I want to go join a band, and I don't really know anybody, so used to like go to Craigslist, right, where like hey,
Mm-hmm.
musician seeking whatever, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, Craigslist is kind of dead now, so I was like, all right, well, I'll go to Facebook, right? And just started poking around and found out there's a Twin Cities musician, sort of chat page or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I met this guy Jake who like posted an ad. Was like anyway, I've been trying to like figure out what my next project is. Like I'd been in a couple bands at DC, like they're just whatever kind of like dad rock bands, right? Like we're all dads, and we're all just kind of getting together. Like we had some original songs and just playing covers. Something to do, right? Like get out of the house for an evening, and we like jamming and making music, and it's always fun. When you kind of start clicking with people, right? So anyway, like I said, I just moved to the area and was kind of looking for start something new, and looking, kind of been like putting playlists together, trying to get inspired by like what kind of stuff I want to do, and kind of wanted to get back. Funny enough, into my roots, kind of right. Like I really loved, like the Epitaph, the '90s Epitaph bands, like Bad Religion and NoFX and that kind of stuff. So kind of like fast skate punky stuff, and then I always grew up on a steady diet of grunge riffs, Metallica riffs, and punk rock, right? So kind of looking back to those bands as a sort of a touchstone to be like, okay, that's kind of I think what I want to do for this next thing, right? So anyway, I met this guy Jake, who's a drummer, who said, he's in a couple of different things, but always looking to start maybe something else, right? So I messaged him, with my usual starting spiel, which is, hey, long time. Here's the stuff I'm into. I got good gear, so if you want to get serious or whatever, like we can get it, or if you just want to
Mm-hmm.
hang out. And so then I kind of pitched him on like a dad punk band, right? So what's a dad punk band? But,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I said, I'm almost 40. I got kids, and just kind of dadding it up, right? Go up there and you're like, you're not skinny jeans, but your sort of tight jeans and your white New Balances, and just go out there and just
Sure.
drink a couple of beers with the boys, and you play like Ramon songs and something like that, just to have fun, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so then I was like, oh, what if that was like your whole aesthetic kind of thing? Like we all wear flannel shirts, like jeans, at the white thing, and we all wear trucker hats and drink PBR, and we like changed the lyrics to all about being like about dad stuff, and he kind of liked that. It was like, yeah, you got like a song about like not touching the thermostat, right? Or stuff like that, or going to batting, playing catch with your kid, or go to baseball practice, or whatever, right? Just weird dad stuff, talking songs about grilling. And that kind of veered into like King of the Hill sort of territory, like songs about propane and stuff, right?
Sure.
But yeah, anyway, so we kind of hit it off, and then like when you kind of hit it off with someone, then you're like, all right, you start steering towards it. Like we should probably meet each other first to make sure we're not, serial killers or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Of course. Of course.
So we had a beer, and we talked punk rock, and we talked metal and stuff, and shows we went to, and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, all right, why don't we get together and jam? And so we kind of like came up with some songs that we were going to learn so we could play together. And then, yeah, I just went over there, went to his house, and we've jammed a couple of times since then.
Awesome. So, are you guys in the process of writing material, or are you already doing shows? What's going on?
We're still kind of in the feeling out phase,
Okay.
like seeing how serious the other guy is. Like, we did have a pretty good conversation about that. Like, we both got careers, we got our families, we're not going to like quit our jobs and go hit the road,
Right. Right.
But it would be fun to have like a little short, like a long weekend tour somewhere, or have a road gig occasionally, that kind of stuff, right? So,
Sure.
and then so it's just been him and I kind of jamming, and he was like, after we did the covers tryout thing, he was just like, all right, man, let's just jam, right? It's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of, come up with some stuff, and yeah, and we just jammed this past week, and it's kind of like, all right, well, let's go to let's maybe like start looking at some other people to start jamming with. Like he says he has some other musicians he could bring in. Look at like a bass player or like a singer or something like that to start putting something together. And I guess he set up a little, he got like a copy of fucking Logic. It was just kind of like doing some home recording stuff. So he's been kind of recording our jams, and it's like, oh, this could be a song, or that was a cool riff. Or he's really like kind of taking a more I don't know, organized approach to it than I usually would, where we just kind of jam for a bit. Like, well, that was cool. That thing you did where you did the, you know, how it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so anyway, yeah. So I think definitely though after this last one, he's like, yeah, I think we have some chemistry. Let's start putting something together. So I think we're gonna start looking for some other guys and just start writing some songs and putting stuff together. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's kind of focus back on you for a moment. What are some of your favorite memories that you've had during the time that you've been working and learning music that are prominent to you? Whether it was a show that you went to that kind of motivated you, or something else that had an impact on you.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you about my most favorite gig of all time. I'll put it that way. All right, so I went to school down in Hampton Roads, Virginia, right, which is like like Norfolk, Virginia Beach type of area. And I started myself a rock band, and basically whatever. They were just some friends of friends, right? We all got together and we kind of formed a band. And I went to Old Dominion University, but across the bay there was a Hampton University, and they had a recording, like a studio recording program, right? That my drummer was in.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having like a student show at the student union there. And he got us on the bill. And the thing about Hampton University, it's like a historically black college.
Okay.
So, which, not like a problem for me, but, just not, I mean, I'm a white dude from the suburbs, right? So not my typical kind of audience. So we go and we play. There's like whatever, a bunch of bands, all kinds of bands there. There's hip hop acts. And, it's a real college student show, right? And anyway, we get up there and we play our first song, and the crowd goes crazy. They're like crowd surfing. Everybody's like shouting my name, and like it's just think the student union just packed with all random kids from all at school, and they're like having an absolute blast. And that was like, I'm feeling it, like digging into the riffs and doing rock star moves and stuff. I mean, it's just like, dude, I felt like, it felt really good. I felt like a god, like a rock god on stage. It was amazing. It was amazing. And
awesome.
Like part of the deal, right, was we could only play a few songs, and but they were like, come back. They like wanted us to play an encore and stuff. It was like, that's the best gig I ever had. It was all kind of downhill from there.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
It was really fun.
Well, where can people find your social media and follow you? And then once you guys start doing shows, do you guys have a social media presence at all?
Well, we haven't really picked a name yet, so we're not quite on that. But I'm Philly Jacobs on all forms of social media. So I'll probably definitely be posting my project there whenever this thing gets cooking, and everybody can find me there. So
all right.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and so I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So what's a message in general that you'd like to throw out there?
Sure. It's important to make and create art. Art is what makes us as a species unique in the animal world, besides us, of course, being the top of the food chain. But when you think about what lasts, like through all of recorded history, it's people's art, right? People, taking their thoughts and feelings and manifesting them into something physical, right? Like that's what really lasts, and that's what moves people and drives people. And it really is fun to be creative. Even if you think you're a hack, you're just playing three chords and just making things rhyme with Moon, June, Spoon or whatever, right? But that it's important to be able to do that and to understand that and to be doing that, right? Because it also helps you relate to other people who do that as well, like being part of the process, right? I mean, art to quote Cursive, famous Midwest indie band or emo band, art is hard. It's certainly hard, but it's also worth it when you do it. Go forward through it, and it can be fun and it can be torturous and it can be all that, but that's kind of what makes it beautiful. It's just doing all that. So, whatever your medium, this is a music podcast, so music, but painting, working with pottery, or you're baking, or you're a cook, a chef, that kind of thing. All that, just expressing yourself through art, whatever the medium is everybody should try at least once, and hopefully we'll continue doing it throughout their lives.